Hello, and welcome to Twin Study After Dark. I'm your host, Sallie, joined by my co-host, Katie. We're identical twin sisters. We invite you to join us as we investigate our similarities and differences in all things life has to offer. Hello, and welcome to Twin Study After Dark Friday Feedback. I'm your host, Sallie, not joined by Katie today. I am flying solo yet again for another Friday Feedback, and we are anxiously awaiting the day when Katie will do her first solo Friday Feedback. But for now, you get me, and Enid, of course, because Enid just loves all of the attention. This week, Katie and we held our first interview with a guest on our podcast that will be airing on Monday. It's Andrew Reyes. He's the owner of the Oak Fitness and Nutrition community. And though it was our first time doing an interview for our podcast, technically, I guess I've interviewed Adam, but not quite the same. I was really proud of it. You know, we're still working out kinks, getting the sound quality correct just with call-in guests and everything. And it's not perfect, but it was just really special to have somebody else's voice come on the podcast. And I was thinking about it after, just his passion for fitness and nutrition and even his story of how he started his own business. I love hearing people's story of their passions or the signs they get in their life that just point them in the direction of their passions, because everybody has something that they are just, so passionate about in their life, and it's so special to them. And fitness and nutrition is definitely, fitness for sure is a passion of mine, but just to see him light up and talk about it, those are the type of people that make change in the world. And I'm so proud that he was our first guest on the podcast, and I'm excited for everyone to hear what he has to say. Again, I do apologize. The sound quality isn't what I hope for in the future. It's not bad, but it's just a little fuzzy. But just listening to his words, and I hope everybody gets something from the episode that airs Monday, because I definitely did. And I'm really thankful for that interview, and I can't wait for all the study breaks to come in the future, because I've been talking about them for a long time. And I really, really just love a podcast in general, because you get to say what you feel. Some things, you don't even know they mean something to you until you hear someone else talk about it. And I love allowing others to share their passions and their beliefs on our podcast, because that's the fun of listening, right? We're not all the same. We're not all meant to be the same. We don't all have the same loves, likes, and dislikes, beliefs, religions, and so much more. But I do think spiritually, on a level of just being human, we connect. And it's really cool to get others on the podcast and just see that in real life, because when you're stuck on the internet scrolling, sometimes it feels like you feel more alone than ever. And I like having a platform where we can bring people on and really showcase how much the world actually connects, and people connect more than anything. So this Friday Feedback, we're actually talking about Father's Day, our Father's Day episode that aired on Monday. Happy early Father's Day to all the fathers, all the wonderful daddies out there that are going to be celebrating on Sunday. I just feel so blessed to have my dad as my dad and my husband as my husband. And I know that not everybody has their father with them this Father's Day. And I'm wishing you all just the most love, and hopefully you get some signs or some memories you can talk about your dad on the day, because I know Mother's Day and Father's Day is hard when they're not physically with you. I also want to just say thank you for everybody who reached out with feedback. There was a lot this week, and I'm going to try to cover it the best I can. So a fun one, first of all, we had a lot of people reaching out about mom bods, and I don't know if it's just because we talked about it, but there is like TikToks going around about mom bods now, and the sundress thing, like people saying mom bods and sundresses, like what? But I don't know, is this a thing? Like, I need to know is this a thing now? Are mom bods in? Is it a type? I feel like there's too many different types, but I guess if you're a mom and you have a body, you have a mom bod. But so many people like wrote in just to say mom bods are hot. I'm like, okay, yeah, I don't know, is it the same thing? I need a guy's opinion on that. But like the people writing in were guys, so I guess maybe it is. I don't know. I've dated some terrible people in the past. And I remember one in specific was like, women aren't hot after they have kids. And he also told me I'd start to decline after 27. So he was a dick. But, oh, this is great to talk about all the terrible men on Father's Day. I'll switch the topic soon. So, anyway, in my mind, I guess it stayed with me. I was like, oh, are we not sexy after we have kids? And I love women who have curvy bodies. And I even love, everybody who knows me well knows I love a belly. Like, I think bellies are the cutest thing ever. Like, if you're in like a tight dress and your stomach is like a stomach, I think that's so cute. I don't know, it's a weird thing, maybe, but to me, I'm like, I see how men would like that because like girls are like comfy and curvy and soft, and not all girls, but I think that's cute and I think that's sexy. So I get it. I mean, I think I'm down with the mom bod too. The next thing people commented on was our conversation about millennial dads. And I do just want to say that I had a great dad who was a boomer. So I did. His role was significantly different than I think if he would become a parent today, just because, like, if he was my age now, society has changed, right? But millennial dads, the common consensus was, like, what people wrote in is they feel like now dads are putting less pressure on kids. Somebody wrote in pretty lengthy saying they had a lot of pressure from their dad to get good grades, to go to college, to perform well in sports. They needed to get a good job. It was very much like do X, Y, and Z, and then you feel loved. And I kind of get that. Like your accomplishments made you feel love from your father because he was putting up this high demand on you. And a lot of people talked about, yeah, the pressures and just expectations fathers had set for them as children. And even discipline has changed, where fathers in the past, a lot were spanking, definitely the main role of discipline. And like now discipline's completely changed to talking through, listening, modeling, breathing techniques. Like so many people wrote down and just was, it basically seems like millennial dads are a little bit less black and white, I would say. Like they are going to sit down, take time to listen, they're present, they are going to hear you out if you don't want to go to college. I think a lot of people in my age group, I was born in 89, but we're the generation of people who went to college for something and didn't necessarily end up in that career or ended up in careers that really didn't need a degree to begin with. And we'd be further along if we had just gone right into the work field. So I think our generation, parenting in general, in the United States, I think is changing around the idea of college. I know when I grew up, my parents, it was almost not even like an option. It was just like, you go to college. That's what happens after high school, you go to college. And it was really, I guess, it was well received if you went to college, and if you didn't go to college, it wasn't as accepted. And I think now, dads and moms alike, and definitely in my family, and I know I can speak for Katie on this, we're really seeing like, oh, I don't know if college is a necessity. And if my kids come to me and they know what they want to be, and that includes going and getting a degree that needs to be applied from a college or from higher learning, I will support that. And if they come to me and say they want to do something else that requires different training or maybe not college, I actually would be okay with that. And like, especially if they know what it is they want to do. I think college for me is like, I don't know, like maybe if they still need to take some classes to keep figuring themselves out. For me, college was like that. Like it helped me kind of whittle down what I want to focus on. But it's a lot of money to just like try to figure out what you want to do, you know? So I definitely believe in like a gap year too if they need it. So I don't know. I look back at that time now and I'm just like, college kids are literally kids. And it's hard for me to be in a place where I like need to force an education on my kids if they don't know what they want to do at that point. But anyway, my rant is over. Less pressure for good grades, go to college, and less pressure in sports. Somebody else also wrote in and said there's less pressure for boys to like be tough, and somebody wrote in their dad was always like, rub some dirt in it, like it's okay, don't cry type thing. And dads are becoming, I don't want to say softer, but I do think more empathetic. And not that they're raising their kids to be like, not know how to move on and fall down and get back up, but just a little more understanding and allowing kids to share and show their emotions. Somebody wrote that they felt like their dad would get uncomfortable every time they showed emotion. And I think dads are getting better at that. I do think some dads are getting better at that, which is really cool. So the next thing, the next thing I asked, I put out a survey on Instagram and I just said, what qualities make a good dad? And this is hilarious because most of them start with a P. So I'm like, P. Someone said patience, presence, partnership, playful. Those all were sent in. So I was like, patience, presence, partnership, and playful make the perfect dad. Let's end it with a P. So I was like, that's so funny. So literally the things that were sent in all ended or started with a P. That's funny. I was thinking about this more because I was thinking about my dad again, and I was also thinking about Adam. But I do want to just say, I think the thing that I really admire about dads today, and my dad, he did this really well, because I was really trying to think, like, what does make a good dad? Like, is it just them showing up? Is that it? And then I tried to reflect on my life, like when I needed my dad or what he's instilled in me. And I guess what I came up with was, I really think a good dad, he sees you for who you are individually. He tries to instill his best learned lessons in you. He tries to share his wisdom, at the right moments. But when you come to him and say you have different opinions, or you are wanting to identify differently, maybe you're taking a route less traveled in your family, he meets you with understanding. And not only does he meet you with understanding, but he meets you with love, and he adapts his mind to know that's my child, that's Sallie. Say, that's Sallie. She believes X, Y, and Z. That's my child still. And they see you as even a more whole version of yourself than they did before. And I don't know if I'm making sense here, but like, I'll give an example that's not like the best, but with my dad, I really he raised four daughters actually. I say three, but kind of four. And that's a family story. So everybody who's listening knows what I mean. But he raised four very, very different daughters, all with different viewpoints on the world, all strong in their own ways, all weak in their own ways. And I think that my dad is so good at being a dad because he's let us hold different beliefs than he holds. And he can be vocal about his beliefs, but he allows us to be vocal about our beliefs too. And he sits with it. Sometimes he adapts his own thinking, which is the sign of an intelligent person. Sometimes he doesn't, but sometimes he does. And there's clues in his parenthood with us that he has listened, received the information, and accepts that about us now. For us, he can be separate. You know, he's not the same, but he loves us for who we are fully. And honestly, I think weirdly, men who raise daughters, like, I think he's proud of it too. You know, I don't know. I think he likes that we can like debate and have our own ideas and that we really think about things and we can form our own opinions. And I think he likes seeing that strength in us because him and my mom instilled it in us. You know, like parents can't always instill beliefs because the world, right? But they can instill a sense of curiosity, a sense of empathy, a sense of generosity and kindness. And I think when good dads see that in you, they don't give a shit what you believe in. Like, if it doesn't match up with them, they're like, my child is the child they've been their whole lives. This makes sense for them, and I love the fuck out of them. So that's my soapbox. But when I think of a good dad, I'm like, that's how I want me to be as a mom. That's how I want Adam to be as a dad. I just want my kids to be kind, empathetic individuals that think about things. And they don't just believe everything they hear, and they have really good reasons for their beliefs, and they treat people with kindness. And we don't need to be carbon copies of each other. Fuck, my family looks nothing alike. We will never be that family. But even on the inside too. And that I think is really, really awesome. And that I think makes a good dad to me. And that's why I think me and Katie are still to this day at 35 daddy's girls. Because we've seen him like meet us with confusion, adapt his views, and just love us anyway. And that is so cool. Man, I've been emotional all day. I feel like this is the danger of being like alone, is like sometimes I start talking and then I get a little emotional. Katie's like this too, but when we're together, it's so much easier to just like laugh and chat and make jokes because we're hilarious. But alone, we just turn into these little criers. So anyway, the last thing I wanted to end with, and this one might take a while, but there was a father who wrote in to our podcast because we always in our show notes, we always say, please write in with your questions, comments, feedback, ideas. And there was a father, a soon-to-be father, who wrote into our podcast. And I wish I could say more, but he wanted to choose to be anonymous, and I 100% respect that. He and his fiance are expecting a baby. And he wrote in many, many questions to Katie and I about parenthood and truly asking us how to be a good parent, make the right decisions with like the baby, basically in the belly all the way through childhood. His questions were so beautifully written because in every single question, all I felt was this man's anxiety around becoming a parent and how much he wanted to do a good job. And I'm responding to him right now. I responded to him in a little email as well, knowing this would be coming out. But I want to say to this listener, A, thank you for listening. B, thank you for trusting Katie and I to answer some of your questions. C, I'm no professional. Like, I'm a mom of 4, and I don't know much more now than I did then. I'll share what I do know, and I do wish Katie was here for this because she has a whole different, view on parenthood. We've done things different, and you'll find that when you become a parent. There's no one size fits all. I'm not a doctor. I'm not an expert at parenting, but I am a mom. And I'm going to try to answer some of your questions, and some of them I'm going to leave kind of up to you because your questions were so beautifully written. And I can tell already just by the fact, like, talk about fatherhood changing. This man wrote into a podcast to ask about tips about parenting a child who's in his fiance's belly. I mean, that's amazing. I that's fathers nowadays, and it's beautiful. One of his questions, I mean, his questions were beautiful because every single one, I remember when I was becoming a parent, I was so worried about too. He asked about how can I bond with the baby while the baby's still in the mother's belly. And I'm like almost tearing up because I just think it's so cool that guys are like really worried about this stuff. It's so beautiful. Like, cheers to you and your fiance. I already know you'll be great parents. My journey into motherhood is unique. I didn't carry 3 of my children, and I did carry 1. So my opinion on this, and like I said, I'm not an expert. Somebody somewhere is going to tell you something else. But I want to tell you, with all of these questions, your intuition is going to tell you more than what any expert on parenting will tell you, because you know it already. You just haven't tapped into it yet, or if you have, keep following it. Truly. When I carried my son in my belly, I really made sure to talk a lot. I mean, I talk a lot, so he knew the sound of my voice, I'm sure. I think babies can typically hear your voice or hear others' voices from 18 to 23 weeks, like somewhere in that time frame. And I remember Adam, my husband, he really would we just sit and have conversations. He'd lay on my belly. He'd talk to the belly, he'd talk to the baby, talk to my belly. I think it's most important. I don't know if it necessarily matters what you're saying, but that they're hearing your voice, that they're feeling your laughter, that you are a safe and calm environment. I think that's important too. With my son Scott, I continued running throughout my pregnancy, and it's funny. I don't think it's something you need to do. But when he was born, that little boy was the best. He would fall asleep. No, he wasn't the best. He was a very challenging baby. He had colic. Oh my gosh, it was terrible. But the best sleeper, when it came to me wanting to get him in a carrier and put him in the stroller and run, he'd just go to sleep right away. And I'm like, it's because he felt it in my belly, I'm pretty sure. But I also want to say, it's so important to talk to the belly and play music and dance. And I researched a little, and I know it's important, but I also know that the minute you see your baby, the bond doesn't always happen the same way with the mom as it does as fast with the dad. Just because the baby's, when it's coming from you, the woman, Scott, my son, came from me, and I don't know, he just always gravitated towards me. We have 3 kids that came from a different birth mommy's belly. I never had the opportunity to share my voice with them or anything, and all the bonding had to happen afterward. And I think that you thinking about this already and caring about it already, I just know you're going to do it right. And just please don't put too much pressure on yourself. I don't think you need to make it rocket science. I think you just be yourself. you love on that fiance of yours and let that baby hear your voice. And yeah, I like the plain and simple. Like I said, I'm not a doctor. I don't know these answers. You asked for what are good books to read under the age of 12 months, TV shows, programs, cartoons to watch. And for that, I also, just having 4 kids that are completely different, first, I don't think you can go wrong with books. Like, we started reading to our first daughter, I mean, right away. Like, she was still in the NICU, and the nurses gave us some fairy tales to read. Like, I think they gave us Cinderella we brought home with us because it was a memory. But I think, again, the importance at that young age, I would assume, is them hearing your voice and um, just getting to know basically the sound of you. So I would say read whatever you want to them at that young age, truly. And I think it's beneficial. And I think when they get a little bit older, like they're, 12 months, 18 months, then you can start with those I mean, honestly, even before you can start like handing them board books, because basically board books, spelled BOARD, are like hard books that they can like play with. They even make some like books that are like out of cloth that babies can play with. Just so they it's like motor skills, like learning to turn the pages and learning to like hold it and stuff like that. But maybe around those ages, start incorporating if you look up baby books for 0 to 12 months or 0 to 18 months, you'll find a lot that are just about language and about teaching kids sight words and teaching them a picture of a dog is a dog. And it's really important, I think, just to make sure they are able to look at a picture and they start learning some language. But you know what? You can do that without a book too. So that's what we did. Other people might do different things. And I don't think you can go wrong. I don't think you can read to your child too much. Like we, when our kids we still try to do this, but now our older ones are wanting more iPad time and stuff, which I'm not a stickler about. But we always tried to read 2 stories with our kids every night before bed. And and again, all parents do it different. We would lay with our kids in bed, read stories. They'd go to bed and then we'd leave the room. But that's not even right. That's not even wrong. Some people sleep with their kids until they're 5. Some people don't even lay down with their child because they want their child to learn to self-soothe on their own. You'll learn you're going to do what's best for you and your family. And I'm sure your fiance is going to have opinions, and I'm sure your baby is going to have a mind of their own. With the next question about TV programs, cartoons, and all that, I have a lot of different answers to this because my first 2 kids were raised during COVID. And as much as I didn't want my kids to be watching TV and stuff, it was COVID. We weren't doing a whole lot. So yeah, my kids would sit down and watch movies. And they were doing that pretty young. I mean, at least as young as 12 months, maybe. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe, I don't know, sometime around them when they're sitting up and kind of talking. But I think that they got something from it. Honestly, back then, what was popular, I don't even want to say it because I know that there's people that don't like it. But back then, as bad as it sounds, because I know some people are like, this causes ADHD or something, but I don't know about that. But my kids were watching, Cocomelon was huge back then. Frozen 2 was huge back then. I mean, now, that's how my kids were, my 2 older kids were. They would sit down and watch things once in a while. And I was fine with it. As long as it wasn't for a long time and they were engaged and they learned language from it. I've heard a lot of parents talk about Miss Rachel. I've heard a ton of parents talk about Bluey. Bluey, I think, honestly, your whole family can enjoy. But I think kids do learn from watching TV. That's where we are in society, right? We're a society full of technology. My twins that are 18 months old right now, I'm not even trying to be one of those parents that is like, no screen time, no movies, no nothing, because I was never that. They don't sit still. They don't want to watch TV. I'm not kidding you. If you ask me what their favorite TV show is right now, I would say they don't have one. They're 18 months old and they've never once been engaged with a television. And it's not because I don't want them to. I would love for them to sit down so I could like do the dishes. No, they have each other. They just want to play. That's all they want to do. So I would also say just go like kind of, you have to see how your kid is. Like, as much as you think you're rearing your kid's personality and who they are, they will come and you'll learn this. Every kid is the same, or every kid is different. I'm sorry, every kid is different. And like they'll come and have their own personality. So like you kind of adjust based on what they need and what they want. I have 2 baby girls right now who just do not want to watch TV. And if I give them a book or read them a book, they want to be wrestling. Like they'll be wrestling while I'm reading. They're just not into it. So I think you just like at that young age, you try your best, but like you have to be flexible and adaptable to how your kids are and what their needs are. Let's see. You asked, let's see. Oh, good ways to bond with your kids under 1. And you asked about ways to make them laugh, which I thought was really cute. Honestly, again, every kid is so different, but I think what you'll find is usually there's not an absence of laughter. Kids find the silliest things funny. I'm not even kidding you. My first kid did not think peekaboo was funny. My twins right now that are 18 months old, they will play peekaboo. I'm not kidding you, for an hour straight. Like, it is the funniest thing to them. They just laugh and laugh, belly laugh, rolling over. They think it is so funny. And I think, again, you're going to learn your kid. You're going to learn what they think is funny. My son was very rough. He thought play fighting was fun. He wanted to run into things. He wanted to jump off of things. I was constantly in a state of being like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. But he would just laugh. Like he just thought it was so funny. My first daughter, let me think what made her laugh. Because she's not ticklish. That's another thing. You'll learn. Some kids aren't ticklish, which is the weirdest thing. All my kids are ticklish except for my first daughter. She's not ticklish, and she's definitely the most introverted out of all my kids. But I think the things that like made her laugh was like putting things on my head and like taking it off, like silly, like a book on my head and then taking it off. Like just honestly, I just want to invite you to be the goofy self you are. Being a parent brings back a lot of like your own inner child, and just let yourself be silly. Like let yourself crawl on the ground and act like an elephant. Like you are so wonderful that you're asking all these questions, but I promise you, you're going to do great, because in the moment, you kind of just, I don't know, kids bring something out in you. If you want to be a parent and if you have love to give a child, a new side comes to you when you're trying to make a kid laugh, and it's not hard. It's not hard. Schooling, when to begin. You said you think under 1 or later. Again, every family's different, and I don't know your financial situation, but Katie and I, this is why I wish Katie was here, we chose differently. And I think when I was a first-time parent, I would have said, yeah, I want the year to bond with the baby or whatever. But you know what? I truly think kids are just amazing little souls, and I think they come in, and I do have the belief that the souls, the babies that come to you, they choose you at some point. And I just think that whatever you choose, your intuition is telling you to choose, is going to be right. It's going to be what your baby needs, and it's going to be what your kid someday, what will mold them into who they're supposed to be. So like I stayed home with my kids. I'm still home with my kids. And I'm in this 5 years now. And my sister, she went back to work right away. Or not right away, but like, I think she went back at the 5-month mark. So actually, she had a pretty long maternity leave. But she started daycare right away with her son. And I can say he is very smart. He's very intelligent. And I don't know if it has to do with that or not. When since I was a stay-at-home mom with my first daughter, I did at the age of 2. I want to think, was it 2 or 3? I think it was 2, but she was almost 3. She was like a month away from being 3. I was just like, I think I want to get her socialized with other kids. I've never been worried about academics because I was a teacher too. And I'm like, I know I'm going to be a present parent. So that wasn't my number one priority of going and sending my kid to school. But I did start sending her to a school 2 days a week because I wanted her to socialize. I have found with my family in particular, my oldest kid had the slowest language development. And every kid that's come after her has been quicker and quicker and quicker. And I do think it's because they have siblings around them that they're constantly, it's not just mommy talking to you sometimes, it's the kids always talking. Like somebody's always communicating with the babies now. So they've been faster. And Scott, my son in the middle, he was even faster than my first. And so for my first child, I did decide around 2.5 to 3 years old to put her in a school 2 days a week. It was not even a full day. And I think it was really helpful for her language development. I really was worried about her. I thought that she might need intervention. Like I was like, is she talking enough? I don't know. And because she went in and knew she was saying like a couple words. And by the end of the year, she was talking great. And people reach out to me a lot that are parents, that are friends of ours, and will say, oh, my child is 2 and they're only saying 3 words. And I can honestly say with our daughter, it was kind of that situation. And then I've seen her go through it and be perfectly fine with her language and vocabulary now. And I really think she did benefit from socializing with other kids. I can also say my son, oh my goodness, when he was 2 and 3, I think more 3, he was so violent. Like he wanted to bite and hit. And our oldest daughter was never like that. Like no physical anything. Still to this day, honestly, she doesn't really physically fight. And he has always been just more physical and in his body. It's how he communicates. And at the ages of 2 and 3, he didn't have language development to always tell people what he wanted. So like he would hit and he would bite. And I got to the point where I was like, is there something wrong with him? Like, what's going on? And you know what? He grew out of it. And now he's the sweetest, nicest, cutest little boy in the world. Like that's why I hear that a lot too, especially with little boys. They're like, oh my God, he is so violent. And when it's those early years, it's so easy to be worried about every little thing. And my best advice to you, and I said, like, I'm not a doctor, is to truly just take it for what it is. It's probably a phase. And your kid is going to cross the finish line, get to that next milestone when they do. And that's kind of the beauty of their individuality. And now I can look back and really appreciate and really think, oh, that's really cute. And that makes sense with their personality, that it took them longer to do this because they were more like this. Or that makes sense that he's like this because now I see how his emotions are. As you get to know your kid and as they grow up, you just learn that little part of them that they were developing. You see how it unfolds and it really starts to make sense, and it's really cool. I don't know if this answers your question. Honestly, like I said, I am not an expert, but I am trying my best, and I know you're going to be great by all these questions. You talked about baby foods, when to introduce them. I just want to say your pediatrician at every single checkup you go to ours specifically does not let us forget when certain things should be introduced. Like, she's always asking at every monthly checkup, like, oh, did you start this? Did you start this? And my answer for that would be like, definitely ask your pediatrician. Like, if you're unsure and they're 6 months old and you're like, I'm pretty sure they're supposed to be starting like some foods, you can ask your pediatrician. You're going to be going to the doctor quite a bit with a newborn. And there's a lot of different methods out there. Baby-led weaning is really popular right now, where the baby kind of is allowed to, like, basically the soft foods that they can pick up and feed themselves. And I'm probably explaining this really terribly, but that's like a new form of, I mean, all of this has changed even since my first child. My first child was like pureed little, or like basically you puree the fruits and vegetables and give it to them, slowly introducing one at a time. And just because if they have an allergic reaction, you want to know what it is and stuff like that. There's different methods out there. And my advice would be just ask your pediatrician. Like, when it gets to be that time, you'll know. And kids are different. My oldest daughter, she wanted to be on formula and milk. I mean, oh gosh, she preferred it over foods. Like, we had to be like, no more. Like, you can't have more. You need to eat real food. My twins, they wanted food. I'm not even kidding, at like 3 months. Like, I didn't give it to them at 3 months, but they were like curious in food so early. And I just remember being like, those girls are going to want some real food as soon as they have like, as soon as they can like mash their mouth and sit up straight, because you're supposed to wait until they can sit, so that to avoid choking. But yeah, ask your pediatrician. And the last question, which I thought was cute too, you said, do you get to choose like an innie outie belly button? I had to look this up because I had no idea. And all my kids have different ones. But basically I read that only 10% of people have outies, which is interesting. But it's basically just, you don't choose. It's how the umbilical cord heals on the person's skin or the baby's skin. So that is just a little piece of them that I think is really cute. That no matter what it turns out, it's going to be super cute and perfect for them. But yeah, I mean, I'm sorry that I did probably not answer these questions maybe how you wanted me to, or if they weren't even helpful, or I hope they were. But truly, I think you're going to be a great dad. Thank you for writing in. I wish you well on your journey to fatherhood, and just know that your intuition it's stronger and better than you think. Like, the minute you become a parent, I just feel like certain instincts kick in, and I can tell by this well-written email that you truly care about doing a good job, and that is the first sign of you're going to do a good job. You're going to do great. And also, you're going to mess up. We all do. We all mess up, and that is totally normal. I'm going to end there because this has been a pretty long Friday feedback. I want to end with a quote that I read a couple years ago, but I actually think is adorable. And this is to the dads that are celebrating Father's Day. To a girl, a father is her first love. To a boy, a father is his first superhero. So remember that. Your kids are always watching. Do a good job. I love you. And have a wonderful Father's Day weekend. We'll meet again on Monday. All right, logging off. Bye. Hi, everyone. It's Sallie. We're going to leave our story there for today and pick up next week on Twin Study After Dark. If you've enjoyed our podcast today, please rate, review, and subscribe. We'll meet again next week for more Twin Studies. Bye.